This episode is sponsored by Fidia. Hey guys, if you haven't already, make sure you follow the African Creator Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the African Creator. My name is Wande.
And my name is Tayo.
And with us today, we have a very special guest.
How many varies? As many as possible.
Let me do like Nigerian media veteran veteran filmmaker, Nollywood impresario. Basically, a very innovative director. Somebody whose films I enjoy, and someone who is going to talk to us today about the magic or the business of filmmaking. Kayode Kasum.
Yay.
Set imaginary clap.
Very.
Welcome, man.
Yeah, thanks for
What's
having
up,
me.
man? How's it been?
It's been nice. It's been good.
Yeah.
Staying alive.
Dope. So, I think on this podcast so far, we've had a lot of creators from different walks of the creator space.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had someone in Nollywood.
In Nollywood, no. He's the first person.
So yes,
that's why it's special.
There's a lot of questions.
Plenty.
But I think the first question is, with a lot of creators, a lot of the creation process is, at least at the beginning, very isolated. So in terms of you want to be a YouTuber, you want to be a podcaster, you can actually like put a camera and do it on your own.
Yeah.
However, making a Nollywood film, it can take 30, 40, 50, 60, people. So how did you, first of all, know that was the journey, and how did you even get in that path in the first place? On that path?
I grew up with a very Nollywood watching family.
Okay.
My father, anytime we get back from work, he always come back with the DVDs. My mom used to be one of those people where, like, she would send me over to, they call it video shop, to go and get the new films. So I always have to go and wait for somebody to bring it. So I grew up in a very Nollywood watching family. So one day I got back from school, studying software and geoinformatics in Yaba Tech. Yeah. Got back from school, and my brother, because he was waiting for Jam, had made a music video with his friends. My brother he used to be a rapper. So I made a music video with his friends, and he had edited it with Windows Movie Maker with a really small camera. And the music video was lit, like it was good. And that was it. That was like the epiphany. I was like, this guy is living my dream at home. And so I had, like, my dad was very what am I saying very? He was he's a huge guy, like times 10 bigger than I am. Tough man, disciplined man. Like, anytime he was watching Hollywood films, we would have to, like, hear him laugh. Like, he had a special room where he watched TV. That's the household I grew up in.
Wow.
So I had to go and meet him, and I was like, I think I want to make films. And I was scared shitless. It was like, when you plan for this meeting.
You've gone over it in your head, money.
And I knew that he wanted me to be this engineer as the firstborn. So I had to let him, I can do this and do film. And I was like, you can? That's when my dad loved Nollywood. I was like, okay, so you want to direct? I was like, yes. He said, okay. So let me know and what it will cost and stuff. He blessed me. 2 years after, I lost him. And I quit school and went into film fully. So where I think film kind of differentiates from other creators is we're trying to make believe. Yeah. So you kind of like a team of people to make, you're telling a story that is fiction and to make it look real. So you have like a team of people that you have to work with to make that happen. Unlike other creators, like in Tayo's space now, Tayo's shooting reality. So you don't need as much people and resources to recreate life.
But how did you know, like, it was that direction, like you wanted to do? Because when you think about the fiction part, like you said, it needs a lot of people to make it come to life. Because basically you're trying to tell a story that maybe it doesn't exist. You're trying to make it, and you're trying to make the viewers believe it. How did you know you didn't want to, like, go into, like, documentary, like kind of like what I do? How did you know it was like stories, like stories in your head?
Fully, I think I don't know.
Okay, you didn't.
I still don't know.
Oh, okay.
Because I watch content that you create and I
Okay.
love it, and I
thanks.
wish I can do that. You don't get, like, I watch music videos and
Yeah.
I know, like, we are creators here, so we know how to make stuff like that. But
Yeah, true.
it's not true to you. That's
Yeah.
you trying to be somebody else.
True.
So we understand how it is to capture images and make it look beautiful, to tell the story of what we want to do. But for me, film, it just feels at home. So, like, before we started this podcast, you played me something that you had shot,
Yeah.
and I liked it, and I was like, whoa. And for a moment, like a second in my head, I'm like, what if I do something like what Tyler is doing?
Mm-hmm.
Then I had to answer myself, and I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. You're not tired. So I think I've found a place that I think I'm comfortable. That is, it's me. It's who I am. So, but like with art now, you will always evolve as you grow as a human being.
True.
Maybe next year now I'm like, film is not for me. I want to shoot documentaries. Or I want to shoot short content or TV series. But for now, this is where I say I found my home for now. Like, I'm comfortable sitting here making films.
So, in your, I think a lot of things that I found similar with directors and basically film people is that they're very inspired by art that exists currently. So, who would you say are your biggest influences, both locally and internationally, when it comes to film?
Nigerian influences will be Kula Flayo, because Figurine did it for me.
Yeah.
Remember, so in school I used to have, like, my room used to have lots of film posters. So I was the guy, like, if you come into my room, they catch me for night, yeah. If you come to my room, like, lots of film posters, I used to have them. So one day, a friend came to me and he gave me a poster. This time Ozone just opened in Yaba, Ozone Cinemas, and he gave me a poster, a flyer Figurine. I was like, yeah, I bought it for you. I saw this and I felt like you want to post it on your wall. I was like, is this a Nigerian film? I watched the trailer and I was like, yes, okay. I think I want to do this. Really inspired by Kunle Afolayan's Figurine. So I put Kunle Afolayan as a very strong influence when I started as a filmmaker. Influenced by a lot of creators, filmmakers in the space right now. Foreign influences would be Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson, for me, just showed me that you have to plan a film.
Yeah.
Like, and it's your film is also your personality. It's like a personality of who you are. Like, after watching Grand Budapest Hotel and even his films before that, you could see that this guy is he has OCD, and I just like that about him. So, like, these two people have people that have influenced me to want to make films. But I'm basically influenced by everyday life, to be honest, like things I'm going through. So, for instance, I know Tyler doesn't watch Nollywood films.
I actually don't. Funny enough,
You don't.
I don't. I think the last Nollywood film I watched was, I think, Omogeto.
Okay.
And that was like that was because everybody last year, and then everybody was talking about it. I'm like, okay, let me just go and watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on today's episode of The African Creator, I'd love to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fidia, and they also sponsored the last video too. You guys know, as a creator, making money and monetizing your content as an African creator is very difficult. And it's like, after doing so much work making this content, making these videos, making those courses, getting monetized now becomes a problem. And it's like there are no apps or there are no companies created to solve this problem. And that is where Fidia comes in.
Yeah, Fidia is basically a monetization platform. It's a platform that allows you to monetize your content, to showcase your content, to monetize it, to get those people, those fans who believe in your work to key into your content and help you monetize it. It has a lot of tools that enables you monetize this content as well as showcase it. As
a creator myself, one of the problems I've also faced is, receiving money. And as you guys know, PayPal is not accepted across multiple countries in Africa. Even in Nigeria, it's also not accepted. So one of the problems we face is getting our money's worth for our work. There are also multiple platforms created across, UK, US, that a lot of other creators out there can use to make money. But it seems like, Africa is always thought about last. Nobody's really thinking about how African creators can monetize their work. And that's why I'm really glad to be introducing you guys to Fidia. which is an all-in-one monetization platform you can use to, earn money for whatever digital assets or whatever digital product you're creating. I think you just check the description, the link in the description below at www.getfidea.com.
This is specially built for African creators. There are different platforms across other countries outside the world. Think Patreon, but this is our own, right? And this is built with the African creators specifically in mind. So thank you, Fidea, for this solution, and thank you for sponsoring this episode of The African Creator.
Why really was
So one of the films I shot last year was Sole. Amogete is a great film, by the way. One of the films I shot last year was Sole. And Sole was like, it was a trip in a bus, which was kind of inspired for when I used to do photography. And one time when I used to do photography, like the bus had to stop in Kaduna because they were robbing in front, which is like a new experience for me. So it's like an experience that I kept in my heart that one day I'm going to make a film like this. So those kind of like everyday life kind of inspires most of the films that I do. And those are the filmmakers that have inspired me.
What do you think is the future of Nollywood in Nigeria, in Africa?
I've thought about it. And one day I sat down at home and I'm like, if we went from big screens and now we're going to small screens. Yes, even if I think a lot of filmmakers, one of my colleagues don't want to agree. But we are going to small screens. And I think the future in terms of technology is bringing how to bring people into the worlds that we create. And I think that there are people in the West that are working on stuff like that. But I think we're still going to go smaller. I think films are going to find ways to become smaller. Because with the trends, it's looking like with TikTok, Instagram Reels, content are becoming shorter. We are growing a generation of people that might not fully, we don't know. This is, I'm talking like maybe years after my lifetime. But we're going to have a generation of people where that attention span is going to be hard to hold. Yeah. So I think the future for film, if film still is going to be big blockbuster films, big experiences that are not, that are so different and unique from the experiences that people have now. So I think, big films to grab people's attention if cinema will still exist.
I think you're right, because as much as people say, "Oh, cinema is dying" and everything, like Spider-Man came through late last year and became the highest grossing movie of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Which one was the one before it?
Avatar.
Oh, he beat Avatar.
So it was Avatar,
wow.
Avengers, and Spider-Man. That's the top three.
Oh wow!
And
after a post-pandemic,
So
wow.
It's like a thing of like where there's a lot of. I think there's still space for cinema, but I think if you want your movie to pop in the cinema, it has to be an event. Like people need to want to like wear clothes.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Like Black Panther.
Buy popcorn, buy whatever, and go and watch it because they feel so that way you can now be free to say, okay, spectacle, big budget, 3-hour movie, and somebody feels like, okay, I can either go to restaurant or I can go to a comedy club or I can go watch a movie.
Yeah.
You know? And if your idea of your story, which is still, I mean, there's still a room for like smaller stories, but people might prefer to.
I think as a filmmaker, you should come to the realization. Sorry to cut you. Come to the realization that, and I'm coming to the realization that yes, you can make a good romantic drama with two people about a couple, but it's a beautiful film, and like you make the film with all your heart. I can guarantee you, like in the world that we're going in next 10 to 5 years, that will tank in the cinema. That's not a cinema film. You kind of have to realize that you're not making a film for a big screen because people don't need to go out anymore. You can order stuff on your phone. So you kind of have to find ways to take people out of their homes. That's what we're talking about.
It's so interesting because I think that with us here as well, like. It's unfortunate. Well, it's a mixed bag because I think that cinema hasn't really reached its height yet here. In my mind, like years ago when I was like first dabbling of like coming into the film space, I always imagined that, you know what, it's just an infrastructure thing. Like, you know, a couple people build out cinemas, and you just imagine like in every city there's at least 5-10 cinemas, and then that way it makes more sense. So imagine, because I know for a fact that Omogeto, for example, a massive film, a brilliant film, if there were more cinemas, it would have done
Made
more
yeah.
numbers. It did 500 and something million, but just imagine if there were like 15 cinemas in Ilorin, 15 cinemas in Abeokuta, 15 cinemas in...
But do you feel people have enough money to pay to watch movies in
but
Nigeria?
that's the thing now. It's now wide rather than high, right? So you're not necessarily the reason why people are charging 1,000, 2,000 for movies is because it's like we have limited number of cinemas. Like,
okay,
are you sure?
Right. Let me comment. No, let me comment about Bollywood now. So, Indians, like I don't know the population, but a lot of people kind of like support their content. So, for a film like Omogeto now, 500 plus million, just 200,000 Nigerians saw it out of like 200 million Nigerians. Just 200,000 Nigerians.
Oh, 200,000.
Just 200,000
I gave you
Nigerians
500
watched.
million naira.
Just 200,000 Nigerians watched Omogeto in the cinema. 200,000. So like what he's saying is just like Bollywood now, like they go out in mass to watch their films, and that's why they don't need Hollywood. Like you don't see Bollywood filmmakers complain, oh, I was not selected for the Oscars. Like they don't care. They're okay in their life. So I think that's what we're trying to do, filmmakers now trying to do, convert the audiences that we have to believe in Nollywood, to want to watch Nollywood films. So it's a job that I think I tell my filmmaker friends, and like we're not the one that's going to enjoy this industry. Sorry,
true.
we are starting the journey of converting it for the next generation. To be able to make the millions.
I think it's also the same thing in the content space too. Like even the YouTubers, the creators, the TikTokers that are currently like popping now, we are just more or less like opening the space. It's even the same thing in the music industry. Like Burna Boy and all these people, they are opening the doors. Yeah, definitely, are getting there, but they are opening the doors. You see how faster it was for all these Omale and the rest to do international
like
collabs and the
Omale
rest.
has a feature with Justin. I'm like, guy, calm down. He'll put up for you.
So it wasn't like that back then. I think one of the biggest features we had back then was D'banj and Snoop Dogg. Back then, when all of that happened, Kanye and all of that
appeared
in a video. I was like, oh.
He just a cameo. He didn't even say anything, and we went crazy. So yeah, it's that thing where we've had this discussion where it's like, there's still a lot of wins for us, but I can only imagine what the next generation of people who are coming, next generation of filmmakers, they're able to do it faster. They're able to do it, with a lot of knowledge and resources behind them. Now, I think this leads to the next question of like, okay, streaming. I think has a lot of filmmakers that I've spoken to kind of say that it's a bit of a saving grace for Nigerian filmmakers in terms of just, sometimes you're not always able to get all that you need from the cinema in terms of just the amount of people that watch your film. And so sometimes in the past, you put out your film, after like 2 months, that's it. It goes away forever. Like nobody can watch it anywhere else.
I think there was also piracy too.
Piracy, and then obviously there's still big demand by like the diaspora market. So what do you have to say about like streaming and how that has kind of helped?
Yeah. So like 5 years ago, 5 years ago, everybody in Nollywood was hungry. Facts. Like now you can come. Now you have like people. Like it's cool now to say I'm a filmmaker. I'm like, oh yeah, you're a filmmaker. Like back then, you can't even be in those rooms to say you're a filmmaker. So yes, streaming, like technology, which is like what's happening now. Technology really helped entertainment in Nigeria, like to go around the world. So for instance, Spotify, without streaming, the world would not. Burna Boy would not have a concert in New York. Like having that technology take the art, and the Nigerian culture is so, like there's a thing about our people and our culture that everybody in the world just wants to have a taste of it. So streaming did that for us by putting our films on platforms where different people in Barbados, Colombia, Cuba, people that have a bit of Nigeria, their descendants are from this part of the world, like they can access our content for free. Like sometimes I go to my DMs and people from Tanzania, oh, I love your films. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like you never really thought that can happen. So streaming really helped us. But like, so you talked about piracy, and piracy still exists. Like once a Nollywood film hits a streaming platform like Netflix or Amazon, you can find it on other sites for free download. That I think is killing the industry, because if the streamers are not going to be making revenue from their investment in Nollywood, they are going to leave us and go away. So I think we should kind of cop that. Like Nigerians should try, Africans should please try to watch the films on the streaming platforms.
Funny enough, I prefer that piracy to the hard piracy that we used to know, because now that's a global problem. So the same way you can find a Nigerian film is the same way, like I can watch the new James Bond or the new
I don't know if you can watch it. Don't say that. Don't promote that.
Some people can watch, so when there's a universal fix for that, the Nigerian problem will be fixed as well.
True.
Rather than before. Remember when it was like in traffic?
Yeah,
there
you
was
just
this
see.
notorious place. You're literally driving to the cinema.
Yeah.
And they are
selling you the pirated copy of the film. Like that is just like, that's the worst form of piracy that there is, because you just buy the CD and turn around.
True.
So I think that's a very interesting problem that needs to be fixed. Now I have one brutally honest question, because so I'm in the creator space, but I'm also dabbling in the TV and film space, and we've been putting together we've done a couple short films, and we want to take the leap into a feature. My fear, or it's a phobia, right? Is like, sometimes there's always been a belief that you can only make a certain type of movie to make revenue in the cinema. Now, if I want to go the route of like going maybe with something like a psychological thriller or one of these other genres, how do I make my money?
So there is an audience for that.
Okay.
There's an audience for that. But that audience are not the Nollywood cinema going audience. The Nollywood cinema, yes, because with everything you're building a culture, and with the emergence of cinema in Nigeria, we kind of built a culture around comedy films working. Figures have shown that yes, the Nollywood watching audience in Nigeria like comedy. Yeah. That's what over the last 10 years of cinema that's the culture that we have developed, that come to
I think
cinema.
it's the same thing in the content space too.
Yeah, come to the cinema to laugh.
Yeah.
I also wanted to answer this question with saying, I have been wanting to try to come to YouTube, but I'm scared that if I put my web series online, like people will not accept it. But yes, there's always a phobia to start. But I will tell you with experience that yes, because so what I want to say is, if I'm coming to YouTube, there are certain things I have to study: thumbnails,
titles,
duration, what type of content people like. Same thing. Like if I just go to YouTube, come on to YouTube and just put up a content of 1 hour plus, I get 23 views. I deserve it because I didn't learn. So yes, But what I will always advise new filmmakers coming into the space is, don't lose yourself. Find a balance. This is what works. Okay, they like comedy. Maybe put a couple of faces that they like. Still make your psychological trailer, but at least try to have some fun bits in it. Like find a balance, because it's a business. This is what I want: 200,000 people to come and see my film. What do 200,000 people like? Okay, this is what they like. This is what I like. You find a balance, and if you're like one of those, no, this is what I want to do. I believe in it. Okay, when you finish failing on your second film, do that. But yeah, they are different now. That are different. Distribution mediums. If you think sometimes people will advise you that cinema won't work for this film, try streaming. Because the audience for those type of films watch the films online.
Okay. How much does an average film make? Averagely, how much does a film make in Hollywood?
Averagely, people are making profits from 40 million to I'm gonna get to 600 million.
Do you feel 600 million? 600 million is just $1 million.
Yes.
Do you feel if that is the highest we have? Do you feel do you feel that should be? I don't even know how to even phrase the question, but I feel like that's a small number.
It's a really small number. So until filmmakers can find ways to reach our people. Our people are not watching our films. Just a selected, maybe like 0.5% of Nigerians watch Nollywood.
Are you really?
Facts. I'm telling you.
But when
Except
you
when
go,
it comes to Netflix.
but when you go on
YouTube,
YouTube and you see all these movies that they're dropping on YouTube and you see like millions of views and
yes,
stuff.
people
That's
mostly
free,
from
though,
diaspora, and it's free.
too.
No, but so I recently found that like I went to see my mom and she's watching a Yoruba film on YouTube on her
Yeah,
phone.
they watch. Yeah.
So yes, so in terms of yes, this is how I answer this question. Good quality Nollywood films like the Omogetos, the wedding parties, would not get to YouTube because of the amount that is used to make those
Investment,
yes. So those films are what I'm talking about. Like those films are not reaching the masses in any way, and if they do, trust me, somebody's pirating it to DVD and selling it to them.
It's sad because, outside the country, like, there's this saying of, like, life imitating art and vice versa. And a lot of culture is shaped by, like, films, right? Like, so if you're in the US, there are certain films that people will call that almost everybody has watched.
Yeah, true.
But, like, in this room, if I take a poll, for example, like, what was the most popular film of last year? Omogeto, perhaps.
Of the year before.
Yeah. The year before was.
See, that's really hard
I'm
question.
not sure.
But yeah, if I can answer that,
But
it
like
was,
in this room, I'm pretty sure a lot of like maybe 40-50% have watched Omogeto, and maybe the rest haven't. And that is the highest grossing Nollywood film of all time. And we are in a room where most of us work in the film and media space.
yeah.
So
Also,
it doesn't get more concentrated than that.
Yeah.
So if you spread it out wider, you can see that there's a disconnect between
True.
the film space and viewership, and it's interesting. It's very interesting.
also, I want to add to the YouTube thing and Nollywood. You know how Nigerians are now. If you push us, like put a Nigerian in a matchbox, and he will make an industry in that matchbox. So like with YouTube, filmmakers still want to make films, and they know there's an audience that wants to watch the films for free. So with just a small camera and not enough of resources like production design, costumes, makeup, they still form stories with 3 or 4 casts and shoot films that they put on YouTube, and you're making a killing.
Yeah,
They
true.
are making a killing.
True. I think back then, when I think I saw a blog post from, I'm sure you definitely know Njoku. Back then, he was making, I think a year, his analysis was like $2.something million from Nollywood films. So that was before he started Iroko TV. So he was I think he was getting licenses from people making movies, putting it online. And that shows the potential of just the YouTube platform itself. And as a content creator, when I saw that, I'm like, oh wow, like it's actually possible to actually make films and make money off it. But I think he was able to do it because he had like plenty content. And
that started a trend.
Yeah.
Like a lot of filmmakers now see that as a trend. So I have, it's Nollywood. We're talking about Nollywood. So there are filmmakers who make films on Monday, edit the film on Friday, and it's on YouTube on Sunday.
that's like a YouTube video.
Or is it like a full feature films with big stars? So it's a formula where you use 2 stars, pay the star because you already know that algorithm, you know how much revenue you will make. So people are doing that, and it's a factory. And for people who can't subscribe to streamers, they watch those films.
I think for me,
I said, Nigerians will always adapt.
Find a way.
for me, my last question for you would be, what would you say? What would be your advice to somebody who is trying to break into the industry as like somebody who's listening to this and wants to go into the industry?
So ask yourself why you want to make films. Why? Once you can answer that question, stay true to that. Don't forget why I'm doing that, and just go ahead and do it. Like everything, it starts with a step. Take that step, but never forget why you are doing this. The thing about art is, once you are telling the truth, it will always resonate with people anywhere in the world, no matter the race or language. Look at Parasite now. Like no matter the race or language, just always remember why you're doing it and make those films. You will. With everything in life, there's going to be challenges, but on your next project, it will keep getting better.
Yeah, I think I think we're talking earlier, and I think something struck me particularly, and it just crossed my mind. I was going to ask if you've ever experienced it. There's Martin Scorsese says that every time he makes a film and he sees his first cut, like he gets physically sick.
Yeah.
Like his stomach, like he gets physically sick because it's just that weight of expectation. Like this is one of the greatest directors of all time, and he's still getting queasy when he sees his first cut. So, obviously, have you experienced that?
Yes, I have. One way to I have like there are films that I just watch. I remember Kambili, which did really well on Netflix. When I got the first cut, it was like 3 hours long, and I was just angry. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "Why don't you like the film?" I said, "I just don't talk about that film." And it happened during the COVID year. Like 3 weeks, I was at home. I could see that was my system there, but I didn't touch it. I was annoyed at the film, but I cut it through. And with experience, I noticed that happens when you give an editor to cut it for you.
Yeah.
But when you're in the process of every scene, you're handling it yourself, you're fixing it yourself.
It's the same thing with YouTube.
If you fix it yourself, you'll be good. But when you give somebody to cut it and the person brings it, because the person doesn't have an idea of what you want. Like, what was I doing?
Yeah,
that happens. All right. Thank you so much for
coming.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. We're back. This is season 2. We're looking forward to having more conversations with different creators from different fields and different creator parts of the creator economy. So
they should also recommend, if you have anybody in your mind,
please.
Recommend them in this comment section below. Yeah, and we'll see you guys on the next one. As always, peace out.